Kadena Eco Onboards Strategic Advisory Board to fuel growth. From day one, Kadena and Kadena Eco have been the leading forces in blockchain focused on builders. Today, we announce the formation of a strategic advisory board, uniting technical founders and entrepreneurs with the world's top blockchain leaders, venture capitalists, and acceleration partners to support startups at every phase of their development journey. Today, we welcome Brooke Ricketts, president of Beyond Barriers, to the Kadena Eco family as strategic advisor. As an esteemed leader and marketing/product/growth pioneer, Brooke will partner with me to define the next-in-class marketing for Web3. Brooke brings decades of experience in technology, marketing, and strategy to our table, and the perspective of a Web2 executive who is leading a Web3 endeavor. She's known for her collaborative and creative approach and has a track record of connecting with developers, engineers, and builders. The markets have proven again that we are running a marathon, not a sprint. Kadena Eco is here to stay, and we are revolutionizing the builder experience. We remain relentless in our pursuit of increasing the speed of Web3 development and adoption of meaningful applications that benefit everyday people, worldwide. Sound like you? Join our vibrant community or apply for a grant. You can read the full announcement on our website here.
Dang, that's tight. Who is this, Brooks? So they replaced, it looks like they're replacing Paul Su. Brooke Ricketts has an extraordinary career as a brand strategic product advisor and corporate leader for companies as diverse as eBay, Kraft, Stam, SC Johnson, and BMW. She developed a forward-thinking strategies at several top marketing agencies and internet companies, including FCB Global, Digitals, and Twitter, where she was head of the brand strategy. At Avant, a leading online financial service, she served as the vice president of brand and design. Now as chief marketing officer at Cars.com, she leads all marketing functions for one of the world's largest digital automotive marketplaces. Brooks has been recognized for her leadership, making Crain's Tech 50 and Crain's Chicago 40 under 40 list, and channels these skills into a nonprofit sector. With her wife, Laura Ricketts, who is part owner of the Chicago Cubs, Brooks is a vocal proponent of LGBT causes. With her wife, Laura, who is part owner of the Chicago Cubs, damn, Brooks is a vocal proponent of LGBTQ causes. In 2013, she co-founded She's 100, whose advocacy focuses on queer women and youth communities in Chicago. Hell yeah. Support all walks of life on Kadena. Let's go. Kadena, the most diverse ecosystem in crypto community, and definitely has the most women on a team that I've ever seen in crypto, which is huge. I mean, Kadena is looking like it's half women now. That's freaking awesome. Brooks served on the board of the Cubs Charities, a program of the Chicago Cubs that provides increased access to sports opportunities and target improvements in health, fitness, and education for children and families across Chicago. She has joined the board of directors for HireCar, the car sharing marketplace for ride shares. Wow. Oh man, I'm gonna have to make a video on that. Oh, here we go. Let's see what this.
Her community and to her ideals. She honors, to my mind, all that is best about Simon's Rock. And we're honored to have Brooke in our family and thrilled to have her here tonight. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Ian, for a super warm introduction. It's really exciting for me to be here. It's been 15 years. I graduated with the BA in 2000 and came back for graduation in 2001 and have been gone ever since. So it's a thrill to be here. It's been great to connect with some of the students, and just wonderful to be in this amazing building, which definitely was not here the last time I was here. So selling out early, the title of this talk is only sort of a joke. When I was asked to come speak, I imagined myself as a rocker, and then I imagined how I would have reacted to someone like me coming to speak. And I imagined I would have thought something like, wow, she left Simon's Rock and went so corporate. She works with the big nasties like McDonald's and P&G and big auto companies. I know I would have chuckled with my posse of weird girls with short hair and glasses, as we called ourselves, and said, man, what a sellout. She left this place and basically became the man. So since I agreed to do this, I've been praying that what my friend and Simon's Rock classmate and now Simon's Rock employee Sarah Mugridge tells me is true, that you guys are a lot nicer than we were. We'll see. So it's true that I left Simon's Rock and stumbled into a career in corporate America, and that's not something that I ever could have imagined while I was here. But it's also true that Simon's Rock set me up for this incredible journey. I wouldn't be here without the skills and values that I gained at Simon's Rock. Those of continued learning, questioning, exploring, creating, and perhaps most importantly for me, pushing against systems in pursuit of progress, and in my case, pushing against systems. So this was the beginning of a life on the Implosion team. To me, this means working within systems to create progress from the inside out. I spent my career in the ideas business, so at ad agencies, tech startups, and Twitter. The jobs I've held have centered around defining communications, brand, and business strategy. The goal is to create new and deeper connections with customers that ultimately yield greater business results. At ad agencies, I was an account planner, strategic planner, creative strategist, brand strategist, whatever was the nom du jour. I led teams of people who were responsible for isolating the most compelling thing about whatever we were selling. So we start by understanding the people that we're trying to reach, what motivates them, what matters to them, and then identifying the thing about our product or service that will motivate them. You use that insight to then craft a creative strategy that goes into a creative brief. And this grounds all communication for a brand. So as an example, the strategy, Windex makes glass so clean it's invisible, leads to ads with people running into windows. Budweiser is proudly macro brewed, led Budweiser to rebrand from the brand name Budweiser to the brand name America last summer. At Twitter, I helped businesses see new ways of connecting with their consumers through dialogue, conversation, and content. My team crafted and then executed these ideas. So Tweet a Pizza was a program that allowed users to tweet a pizza emoji at Domino's and have their favorite pizza arrive at their door. 24 Hours of Lovin', which was a global crowdsourcing experiment that we did with McDonald's, crowdsourced lyrics from fans around the world for a Neo song. And then in my tech startup work, I've helped founders and operators translate their vision and brilliant technology into something that customers can and will buy. In every instance, my work is drawn from my Simon's Rock experience. My focus is on understanding people, what matters to them and what motivates them. And then I translate that understanding into opportunity for business and progress for my communities.
You guys hear this girl? Jeez, oh Pete, all those people out there complaining about Kadena doesn't market. Kadena doesn't market. Like, they're not ready. And when they are ready, this is what Kadena does, right? They don't just go out and grab some random person and say, hey, it's like they're not promoting within their company, and just like, which most companies do. Like, oh, we need a VP of marketing. So like, here, we'll just promote you because you worked at the company for a year, right? But you don't have any talent at marketing. That's what most companies legit do. Every big company I've worked at, that's pretty much how it worked. They might force you to go to school to learn some things, to get a degree or have a certification to get a specific job, but they always promote within. And when it comes to something as serious as marketing and taking this product to the next level, I mean, her wife owns the Chicago Cubs. Shoo, y'all. And you hear her ideas, like her thinking outside the box on how to bring products to market fit is so freaking smart. I can't stop listening.
Helping business and brands connect with people in more meaningful ways, and helping people connect with businesses, brands, and technology in more meaningful ways. I've worked with moms and shanties in Indonesia, to understand what they need to keep their homes clean and safe. I've sold bug spray and truck engines and bourbon and burgers and washing machines. I've sold cell phones on the internet, and I've sold the internet on cell phones. I've sold tweets and emojis and pizzas with emojis and tweets. As a student, I could never have imagined the joy and the depth that has resulted from this work. I've worked my ass off, to be totally clear, and I've learned that my strongest passion is for juicy challenges and unanswered questions. I found that often for me the juiciest challenges lie in unexpected contexts. I left Simon's Rock thinking I would be a documentary filmmaker, a teller of stories, a challenger of assumptions. Turns out I've ended up telling stories and challenging assumptions, but doing so in corporate America. Though a seemingly unlikely path for a rocker with a professed love of blowing shit up, I found that implosion is as interesting and can be just as impactful as explosion. Implosion is inherently about reframing, remaking, reimagining, and ultimately building anew. On the Implosion team, I've built deep relationships with many individuals who are change makers, and in the process, I've become a change maker myself. I've challenged hiring practices to create imperatives toward more diverse teams. I've mentored many and nurtured some incredible, amazing thinkers. I've been visible and vocal as a queer female executive. And when I'm not at work, I've had the opportunity to contribute to social justice organizations to help them tell their stories. So here are a few things I've learned. You can say anything to anyone as long as you say it in a way that they can hear you. So I moved to Chicago in 2004 to work under a woman named Ellen Plusker. She became my mentor and my friend. She taught me how to write great strategy, how to evaluate creative, and frankly, how to be a better person. And she taught me this, and I'm sure that I've repeated this at least 1,000 times over the years. It's a really great guideline for giving creative feedback, but it also happens to be incredibly helpful in personal relationships. Always find something positive to say before saying anything else. This doesn't mean being dishonest if you think something is crap, but it does mean taking the time to understand and see the whole picture, especially the place from which the other person is coming. Once during a presentation prep, I was arguing with my boss about the presentation flow. We were not seeing eye to eye, and we ended up yelling at each other. It was not pretty, and neither of us was proud of the way that we acted. When we regrouped to talk about what had gone down, we both acknowledged that we were being stubborn and inappropriate. He asked me if I was aware of my posture during our conversation, and I said that I wasn't, and he said, "Can I show you?" And I said, "Sure." And sort of like this. No, I had no idea that I was doing that. He was totally wrong, by the way, but it didn't matter because neither of us was affirming the other. I've learned that all communication either affirms or negate. If you affirm, you will be affirmed. If you negate, but back at you. So use but and wisely. And holds more than one thing, and it allows for building, but negates what comes before us. Start where the greatest number of people are. Build your case head nod by head nod. When people can hear you, they're more likely to follow you. And when you demonstrate your ability to listen and hear others, people want to work with you. And when people want to work with you and are willing to follow you, you're in an incredible position to make change or blow shit up from the inside or outside. Okay, so you can say anything to anyone as long as you say it in a way that they can hear you, and the story you tell is just as important as the way that you tell your story. So one of my most vivid memories as a student at Simon's Rock was writing a paper on the birth of tragedy, and I understand there was some nature reading today around here. I think it was my freshman year. I have no idea where I was going with the paper, and I don't actually remember what I was writing about, but I do remember that there was a moment when everything clicked. I could see a connection that I hadn't seen before, and it was thrilling. The rest of the paper flowed from there, and it just felt like an illuminating moment of insight unlike anything I had ever experienced in my life. So in advertising, we talk about an insight as a window in. It's the thing that will help you connect in a new way. The great work that results is often referred to as a good story well told. So I witnessed this power of the right insight and the right story in the fight for marriage equality in Illinois. My friend Jim Bennett is the Midwest director of Lambda Legal, and he was also the officiant at my wedding last year. As part of our ceremony, Jim told the story of how marriage equality was won in Illinois. We fought hard, we lobbied, we pushed, we pursued all of the political and legal arguments. In Illinois, we were promised a vote twice, and twice at the last minute, we were denied that vote. We were arguing, lobbying, campaigning, we were saying all the right things, but nothing budged. It wasn't working. Maybe Illinois just isn't ready, they said. Maybe you all should wait. But Illinois was ready, and we weren't going to wait. The solution, as it turned out, was not the way we were telling our story, but the story that we were telling. We started our campaign with a messaging strategy that was focused on equality and rights. And while this is compelling and quite correct, it turns out that it resonated most clearly for those who were already in our camp. It turns out that we left out the part about marriage that most married people can relate to, that of love and family. So when we started to tell our story of equality and rights in the context of love and family, things began to shift. People could hear us, because all of a sudden people who otherwise didn't have a connection to the queer community could relate through their own experience. This was a story even Republican lawmakers couldn't deny was right and relevant for families. For many of these lawmakers, the strength of the state rests on the strength of the families in it. There was a lot of hard work and incredible effort that went into this campaign, but I believe that the insight that marriage is about the love and the law, and the subsequent shift in our story shifted the tides in our favor. Illinois passed one of the most ironclad, protective, and progressive marriage equality legislations in the country. Of course, less than a year later, the Supreme Court affirmed this. Know what story you're telling, and tell it in a way that people can hear it. This is how you build up an army of believers that can change a system from the inside out. Anybody know this guy? I wasn't either a philosopher. So be a student of Epictetus, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He said, and you may have heard this in a different form from a parent, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Listening is an art, it turns out, and feedback is a gift. I used to think a great meeting or a great class was one where I made a lot of points or said something important. But it's true sometimes, but it's also true that some of my best ideas and best campaigns have come from conversations, from listening to other people and making new connections. Prisms make rainbows, and in the ideas business, diverse perspectives are input to a brighter output. When we take time to listen first and discuss, debate, dialogue, the ideas get brighter and the solutions get bolder and the work gets more fun. So debate is great and conflict shut down. And just in case, I have that one too, just sort of covered, I didn't include the other guy. Anyway. At Twitter, my team did a personality profiling exercise that basically showed us how we behaved in stasis and then how we behaved in conflict. And the results were really, really interesting, both as a manager and as a team member. The results were that basically people change in conflict. Most of the team actually turned into very different people. So we had some go-getters who became people pleasers. We had some people pleasers who became lone wolves. It turns out I just get more opinionated and stubborn. And I once, this actually comes right out of Simon's Rock. I once told a coach, an executive coach, that I love conflict because it feels constructive to me, right? We're pushing in ideas to make them better. She told me that 80% of the world is conflict averse. Shocking to me. This means that 80% of the world simply shut down when conflict emerges. The difference, she told me, is that conflict involves or feels like you're questioning the other person's motives, whereas debate is about questioning and probing ideas. The Simon's Rock experience is all about debate, and it was great. Pushing and shoving ideas around, bouncing them off one another, and creating new ideas. For a long time, I translated this experience directly into business with the assumption that everybody knew that I was debating their ideas. This was often read as questioning others' motives, which led to disruptive implosion, suspicion, and even worse, mistrust. It's important to have the space to debate ideas, and it's important to set the table in any meeting, relationship, or interaction with respect, empathy, and understanding. This is not assumed. This is what allows for productive debate. In academic contexts, we all come to the table with that mutual respect, empathy, and understanding, not necessarily so in other contexts. In many contexts, people actually assume the opposite. They'll wonder whether you like them, whether you're on the same side, or whether you're going to hire or fire them. I've learned that you have to do the work to build this foundation before you're in a position to challenge ideas. Listening, understanding, creating space to relate creates safe space for debate. Jumping right in can create conflict because it feels like you're questioning motives. Knowing and respecting the difference between conflict and debate has made me a better leader and a better person. Okay. So this one, I actually took advantage of some of my Simon's Rock classmates who are now professors, and they helped me with this whole talk. But this one was tough, it was interesting, but it's really true. So everybody sells, and the liberal arts education can teach you how. So my first boss looked like Reba McEntire. She could melt a room with her smile, and I'm pretty sure that I witnessed her selling ice in the Arctic. She started her career in dance and then naturally moved on to advertising. Before a big meeting, she would look at me and she would say, "Now, darling, just smile and sell like hell." She sounded like that too. So in advertising, we always have a story to tell, but we're also always persuading. We're trying to get the audience to buy the ideas, to buy the pitch. It's discourse and it's persuasion. In the ideas business, there's an unspoken hierarchy between salespeople and creatives, not unlike in some cases there's an unspoken hierarchy between academia and business. The creatives have depth and understanding, and salespeople do the numbers and buy drinks. I've spent a lot of time cultivating depth and understanding and have bought a lot of drinks. Stories and relationships are just as likely to close deals as competitive pricing and rounds of drinks. And whether I'm pitching my Queer Women's Giving Circle on a project to end trans youth homelessness, or the CEO of McDonald's on a Super Bowl sweepstakes, I'm selling. Selling is not about winning or even about winning someone over. It's about convincing, persuading, connecting, sharing, relating, thinking critically about what's at stake and what success looks like. Problem solving, asking the right questions to get to the best outcome for everybody. This sounds familiar. This is what I learned in Simon's Rock, starting with my first day in writing and thinking workshop. Selling is about understanding, storytelling, connecting. These are liberal arts skills, and these are the skills that I look for in the people that I hire. Everybody sells. Don't feel badly about it. Get good at it. Okay, this one's kind of tough. Don't get into a fight with a pig in the mud. So when I was 23, I was the only woman on an all-male pitch team. We were invited to present to a family-owned retail chain in the South. So they asked us to come for a meeting before the meeting to present to the management team before we met with the owner of the company, who I'm going to call Mr. Family for the purpose of this. So we had an amazing pre-meeting. All the ideas were great. It was perfect. We had great numbers. We had great conversations. It was all excellent. And on the way out the door, the lead guy on their team pulled aside the lead guy on my team and said to him, "Y'all are great. That was really smart and right up our alley. But a word of advice, when you come back to meet Mr. Friendly or Mr. Family, you might want to leave your little lady behind." So when our lead guy told us that story in the car home, I was livid. Every feminist bone in my body wanted to march back into that conference room and show them just what they had to lose by leaving the little lady behind. And by the way, none of my team was advocating. But I wanted to prove a point, and I wanted to prove them wrong. I certainly wish I had the opportunity to give Mr. Family a piece of my mind. And at the same time, I'm glad that the secondhand little lady conversation is as far as it went. I stepped out of that pitch and redirected my focus. I had other shit to blow up. And frankly, they were pigs. We didn't get the business, and it was a good thing that we didn't, because after crippling discrimination lawsuits and sketchy business practices, the lawsuits and multiple bankruptcies ultimately forced the business to crumble. So don't get into a fight with a pig in the mud. The pig will have fun, and you'll just get dirty. Okay, this one's also a really important one, obviously relevant today. So I remember a town hall meeting at one of the ad agencies where I worked. It was after a big merger, and we were all there to learn about the future of our agency. The leadership took the stage, and I looked up and I saw a bunch of guys who were really good friends and businessmen that I respected. But what I also saw was a row of white men in their 50s. And as soon as that visual struck me, I realized that I completely tuned out of the conversation. I couldn't see myself there because I couldn't see myself there. So I've learned that there's power in presence and that simple visibility really matters. So my wife and her brothers run the Chicago Cubs organization. She's the only out lesbian owner of a Major League Baseball team, and she's been a visible and vocal advocate in the LGBTQ community for a really long time. She's amazing and bright and brilliant, and I get to marry her. And she's accomplished a lot, and she's been acknowledged by some amazing people for the things that she's done. But still, one of the things that she hears from associates and people in our community most often is, "It means so much that you're out and such a big part of this organization, and thank you for being so visible." I found that often I've underestimated the profound impact of simple presence, favoring actions and results. Both matter, to be totally clear. And I've never wanted to be token, and I do try to stay humble. But at the same time, I found again and again that there's an intangible but very important impact that each of us can have by representing our individual intersections loudly and proudly. We were talking about this at lunch. Being vocal and visible in communities, forums, and contexts where diversity and challenging the status quo are not necessarily the status quo. If our goal is to push people out of their comfort zones in order to create progress, it's important for each of us to step out of our comfort zone and be visibly different. But I probably don't have to tell you that, because challenging the status quo is status quo here. So all work is cumulative. This is actually something my grandpa told me. So thinking about all work is, and it does sound kind of grandfatherly, Thinking about all work is cumulative is a principle that's actually carried me through a lot of ups and downs. The stories I've shared with you today are the ones that have stuck with me. They're the ones that have contributed to my growth. My work hasn't always been fun or glamorous. Sometimes it has been. But I will say that I've succeeded in finding work where I'm constantly learning and constantly growing. Deep roots, strong wings. This is the greatest gift I can give you, my mentor Ellen said. So I left my last job at a fintech startup because Brexit created capital markets shifts that greatly limited the company's ability to invest in marketing. One day we had the money to realize our dreams, and the next day the budget was off the table for at least a year. I never imagined a macroeconomic event impacting my everyday in such a tangible way. But the work I did in the short time that I was there put me in a position for my next gig. And the work that I did to prepare for this talk gave me some great fodder for some interviews over the last couple of weeks. It does sound grandfatherly and maybe a little bit trite, but for me, coming back to this one has forced me to take in every lesson at every turn. Thinking critically about myself, questioning my role in the world, and constantly pushing for better, both for me and those around me. All work is cumulative. So finally, implosion is a practice. So I feel like I need to say that I've worked very hard and I've been very lucky, and frankly, I've been privileged. I've been lucky to land in the ideas business where diversity of thought is valued and where, for the most part, people get hired for their fresh perspective. I've had many opportunities to push because that's been my job, to come to the table with big, bold new ideas. I've stood firm as a visible and vocal activist and advocate for increased and improved diversity. And I've done so from a position of privilege. I'm a queer woman, yes. And I'm a queer woman who has had the privilege of an incredible education, socioeconomic advantage, and frankly, my own whiteness. Both industries where I've spent the majority of my working years, advertising and tech, struggle to realize real diversity in their workforce, and especially in their leadership. In tech, people are thrilled when there are positive improvements in the gender balance. Sometimes it feels like we haven't come very far since the 60s. So I work hard to push for and create change, and I work hard to be aware of and reckon with my own privilege. I'm proud to be a queer woman leader, and I'm constantly reminded of how far we have to go. My implosion practice is one of continued push and the constant study of what productive pushing looks like, means, and is. But as I'm pushing, as I get more senior, the contexts become increasingly monochromatic. As I've progressed in my career and in my life, I've become visible in new and different ways, as a leader of teams, as a leader of organizations, and as a student of the long game. I've never been directly told to be less visible or vocal about what I believe is right and wrong, but I know plenty of people in corporate America who have. To be fair, I was once asked to stop saying I like to blow shit up, but I think that may have been more about the expletive than the sentiment. So in corporate America, political discourse is discouraged in most corporations because it puts the organization in an extremely tenuous position if people feel compelled to lean one way or another politically because a leader does. But diversity in leadership is one tip of one iceberg in the field of icebergs that is the conversation about inequality in America. It is political. For me, it's very personal, and it's deeply relevant. This is a conversation that needs both explosion and implosion. My implosion practice gets sharper and more focused, and sometimes more frustrating the more senior I get. I must be more incisive, more specific, and more collected in my challenges. It's more important than ever that I say things in a way that people can hear them, because I have people reporting into me and I'm influencing at the highest levels. I prioritize listening. Many times my role as a leader is to listen and guide versus assert or direct. I choose my fights and I work really hard to root out the pigs. I smile and sell like hell because I believe my colleagues and superiors need to feel like this change that I believe we all should be and see is something that they should want to be a part of. I'm generous with my ideas and my time to debate and listen, and I'm careful with conflict. And I continue to refine the story of my uncommon journey. Thank you.
Dude, that is badass. And you know what's funny is, like, we seen Paul taking that position in the head of Chicago business, and then all of a sudden we see her coming from Chicago too. I don't know what Kadena's got going on in Chicago, but I'm about that life. Wow. No, she's got that mindset that just understands marketing, right? Like, I didn't really get that vibe from Paul at all. Like, I got that he was a big player, he's a VC, and made a lot of money, but I didn't feel like he wasn't giving the community what we needed, you know? Where I don't think that Kadena's ready to market by any means, and that's the video I'm working on right now. But yeah, man, she's got it going on, man. When it comes to understanding, like, how do you get adoption on a blockchain? I assume that, like, I mean, we could throw it together here.